All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show with your hosts, myself, Alex Baquero, and Chris Turducken Condit, your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmiest of lukewarm opinions with a side of mac and cheese, mashed potatoes, sweet potato casserole, whatever you had on your Thanksgivings. Chris, I actually read, by the way, before we even do the behind us, follow all the places. Thanksgiving is becoming increasingly popular across the pond with our friends in the UK.
Good.
So the UK youth are now getting together around Thanksgivings for Friendsgiving. Obviously, it has nothing to do with the history of their country or anything like that. They are just acknowledging a time, a season to get together with loved ones, and apparently they still do cook turkeys and all the usual fixins. So
Nice. I like that.
yeah, as we talk about a British import to the United States, need to acknowledge the fact that they're importing some of our holiday sensibilities.
The would-be national bird of America being cooked over there in England. That's nice. But yeah, I hope everybody had a lovely Thanksgiving, apparently including our friends across the pond. Not something that I would have expected to say, but I appreciate that heads up. And I would be happy to see some photos and things like that from British Thanksgivings, because I'm all about American culture taking over. That's my lifelong goal. I hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving, Alex. I know you were hosting, which is much more stressful and different than what I was doing, which was just carting two children around airports and then shoving them off to other people and saying, "Here, play with my kids. They're here." But I hope you had a wonderful time with your family.
I did, and I was on the other end of the kid shoving with my nieces and my nephew. So in addition to cooking and cleaning and hosting, we had Uncle Alex duties to take care of as well. But they are adorable kids, and if you can hear it in my voice, they left me with a to-go present as well.
When they that's just because your immune system isn't built up yet. That's all.
Yes, it's particularly weakened, as we've previously discussed.
That's right.
Chris, I hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving. I think before we dive into everything, though, you asked me how my K-pop Demon Hunters game was, and if Netflix or K-pop Demon Hunters want to sponsor this podcast, please slide tackle into our DMs. Let us know. The first time I heard about K-pop Demon Hunters was actually from my adult male cousin and his husband when they were in town, and they said it was the greatest thing in the world. We had to watch it. We attempted to watch it multiple times, as they referred to it as the Hunters, with my niece. I don't think we ever made it more than 15 minutes in before she got bored, someone else needed me, or anything like that. So I've essentially seen the first 15 minutes of K-pop Demon Hunters probably 4 or 5 times, but I have not made it further than that yet. We still have it on the to-watch list.
I've seen the first 15 minutes of K-pop Demon Hunters 400 or 500 times, I think, and I've seen the whole movie once.
Once.
Well, it's tough to get a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old to sit there and watch an hour and a half long movie, and we don't really want them to anyway. But no, yeah, we are big fans at this household of K-pop Demon Hunters, and if nothing else, pretty much every song in the jam is a bop. So you're at least covered there. It's a very solid movie. I enjoy it quite a bit, which is good because I hear it constantly.
Yeah, the first couple songs did sound like bangers. And I mean that's K-pop, right? There's very little by way of lyrics. It's really just catchy AI driven tunes, and
not AI though. They've got real singers on that.
No, it's not AI, but it basically is. If you asked AI to just create catchy music that you hear all over TikTok, that is what I feel like K-pop is.
Yeah.
I apologize to our K-pop listening fans. I'm saying it's effective, and I understand why it's popular.
I was going to say, if this gets cut up and we put this on social media the right way, we could unleash a torrent of hate your way, because the K-pop fan base is rabid and vociferous, I guess is the nice way to put it.
I'm really hoping that you do not have the masochistic personality to self-sabotage our podcast like that.
I don't know. I
That's
like
all.
picks.
That's all I'm counting on at this point. Well, Chris, let's turn our attention to Sunday. We're not really going to recap what was a dominant performance over Young Boys on Thanksgiving Day. And you know who we couldn't count on, Chris, was Ollie Watkins, because he was dropped. And you know what? I think before we get into the game, we should probably talk about the news that was released on Twitter mere minutes before we recorded here today, that he supposedly has been nursing an injury since sometime last year, and that he has required extra maintenance. Excuse me, still working through the illness. He has required some extra maintenance, extra rest days, as he's tried to stay fit. They'll have been aware of this the whole time. It does not require surgery, but the implication in all of that, obviously, being this is why Ollie Watkins is not performing to the level that we have previously expected him to. Chris, what did you think when you saw this article come out?
Well, I'm not a terrible cynic, so there's that aspect of it. I think it's somewhat convenient timing because he's had such a poor season that it feels like there might be some cover here by the club or by his representatives to maybe offset the poor play or protect him from the poor play. And look, I'm not suggesting that he's not actually got some sort of knee pain, because I think if that's the case, then we're talking about a whole different story. But the fact of the matter is that knee pain or not, the chances missed are the biggest thing that is at issue right now with Ollie Watkins. And I don't think that, his having pain in his knee makes up for an almost negative 2.5 XG on the season. So I think that that doesn't quite square, I guess. And it does feel like an excuse in a way, because it's not like you and I, or anybody else for that matter, has ever been upset with Ollie Watkins for his work rate or his movement or anything like that. It's always been the lack of finishing this season in particular. So to me, those two things just don't seem to quite match up.
Yeah, I agree with you. The timing feels convenient, particularly after he was dropped over the weekend and Daniel Mallon has finally started to play well and really put some pressure on him. All of a sudden, this article comes out that he's been maintaining this knee pain, and I'm sure you'll see a lot of takes online of, see, he's leaving it all on the line for us. Excuse this, excuse that. I might be harsh for saying this, but if you are hurt, don't suit up. Go get the surgery, whatever it takes. If you are going to go out there and play, then I don't think that you can really use the injury as an excuse, with very, very, very rare exceptions. And I'm thinking of like the James Chesters of the world, where there was just literally nothing else. In the case of Ollie Watkins, there are other strikers at the club. There are other people that could have played. There's been a long off season where he could have got the surgery done. He looked pretty darn good in the off season, by the way, too. Before we got to the season, didn't seem to be bothering him that much then. And, this also doesn't necessarily make sense from the club's perspective either. That if Ollie Watkins has what the article implies to be a fairly serious knee issue or maintenance issue that he's kind of playing through, why would you not work harder to invest in another striker in the offseason? Why would you not bring someone in? Or, why wouldn't you just sell Ollie Watkins for whatever you could get for him, knowing that he's 29 and potentially going to now be dealing with this knee issue for the remainder of his career? Like, none of that really adds up to me. And so I think not only is there a bit of a cover up from his representatives, I wonder if there is a little bit of a cover up from the club, trying to, garner him some sympathy, but also, kind of exonerate themselves of like, yeah, he's playing with this knee issue. Like that's kind of why all this stuff has happened. So yeah, none of this really adds up to me. And it seems like an excuse, and I'm not really here to hear any excuses with him.
And it sounds like you think that the leak for this definitely came from his representatives rather than the club, and that makes sense to me.
I think it could have been a collaborative effort, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the club trying to get some people off of his back, him trying to get the people off of his back. Like I don't think the club really cares. I'm just saying that if this were actually the case, if the club were aware of this knee issue the whole time, I think that there would have been some different decisions made in the offseason. So I think now they're releasing it retroactively just because, he's the club's all-time leading goal scorer. We all love Ollie Watkins, the person. Let's not get that twisted. We love what he's done for this club. We love, all that he's meant to us over the years. So I understand why the club would want to take some of the heat off of him and be a part of that. But I think if anything, it's more to protect him than to protect the club.
Yeah. Well, and the one thing that I'll say about the heat on him is that from what I can hear, read, and see, seems to entirely be online. At the ground, everybody says that the support is there. You don't hear boos and things like that when he's on the pitch or anything like that. So I almost think you kind of have to separate the online noise as a player, which has got to be incredibly difficult to do. Like I don't know what that's like. I'm just a guy out here talking about Aston Villa and living my life. I don't know what it's like to log on and see a bunch of comments about how much you stunk, every game and how difficult that would be psychologically. So I can understand why you'd want to take some of that heat off, but I think that in the online Twitterverse, when something like this takes hold, it's very difficult to release. And the only thing that's going to change the online reaction is goals. It's not going to be this story. It's not going to be anything like that. So I think for Watkins, the best thing for Ollie Watkins would be to delete social media for the rest of the season and never, ever look at it, to be honest, until he starts scoring goals.
Chris, I'll also say we're a third of the way through the season. If he'd been requiring extra maintenance days since however long they said this has happened, don't you think another reporter would have noticed by now that like every week Ollie Watkins was only practicing like one day?
Yeah.
And then suiting up for game time? Like why is this all of a sudden breaking that? A lot of this just doesn't add up for me.
Yeah, he's also made 11 league starts out of 13 and appeared off the bench in the other two. So it's not like, he's getting a ton of rest. So I don't know. He didn't go with England, so there's additional rest that he didn't have the last couple of seasons. But otherwise, he's still playing a ton of minutes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get back to him because he did ultimately come on and play a part in this game, but he did not start. Rest of the starting lineup pretty consistent with what we've seen over the past 10 games, give or take. Chris, this was a really disjointed first half. Villa started with a ton of possession. Wolves really sitting off, not really pressing in a 4-2-3-1. Villa were not able to break them down. The big notes that I have on this were Emi Buendia, hero of the pod, unfortunately was very poor in multiple opportunities to release someone in behind. And Villa defensively seemed a little tactically naive. They typically have that 4-4-2, and it seemed much too easy for Wolves to find specifically my countryman, John Arias, and Bellegarde in behind the two defensive midfielders. And so they were able to get the ball, kind of break the lines there, turn and run at Villa's back line. And so it led to many early opportunities for Wolves. And Villa got lucky with a couple very, very close offsides calls in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, the Wolves did create a couple of chances, ended up being the one offside in particular where the goal actually went in, was very, very close, to say the least. And I thought he was actually on, and I would have been okay with it, I think, if I remember the breakdown correctly. But it ended up not counting. I thought by and large this was kind of a blah game for Villa. They didn't play particularly well, especially in the first half. And what we saw was, yet again, you already brought it up, a recurring theme of the last 2.5 seasons almost now, of teams just sitting deep, and allowing Aston Villa to have possession and attack, and Villa being unable to break it down at all. There was the chance, was it Mullen that headed it off the crossbar?
Yeah.
That was probably the best chance of the first half, I think. And, maybe on another day that flicks down instead of just flicking over the bar. But I really a very pedestrian at best first half, and largely for me, pedestrian game. I thought that outside of Emi Martinez, nobody really played particularly well defensively, and it's not like Wolves are setting the world on fire, in the Premier League, sitting on 2 points. But if I can say a positive thing, I will take not playing well and winning any day of the week. And even against a relegation side, you take the result and move on. I know that there's not a lot of great things to talk about here, but as a bonus for that, dear listeners who get tired of Alex and I droning on, it's going to be a relatively short pod because there's not a whole lot to break down. But so to specifically talk about the first half, crap first half. Like there's nothing really to add to that.
Yeah, the one thing that I will say in terms of breaking down statistics, when Villa had all that pressure over the course of the first like 24, 25 minutes, they actually were playing with significant width. And I think this is partially due to the fact that Wolves sat off so much. And I don't think we've played a team in a long time that was really willing to not press whatsoever against us. But Cash and Luka Dean were getting very high and wide. And so we actually were playing with a little bit of width, swinging the ball around from side to side, moving Wolves around. And it seemed like once we got away from that over the course of the middle, I'll say 40 or so minutes, 30 or 40 minutes, that's when we ran into trouble once again. The field got very narrow. When Dia and Rogers occupied a lot of the same space, we couldn't get those fullbacks high and wide. And so it became much too predictable, and Wolves were able to clog the middle. You look at the goal on 66, and we actually did use the width again. So that was McGinn on the right side, switching the ball all the way to the left side to Luka Dean. And then he plays it up to Ollie Watkins. You go all the way back to the right side with John McGinn, and ultimately he's the one who tees up Boubacar Kamara. Like that's something that you and I have been saying for a long time, is when Villa can actually get someone out on the touchline. We've praised Jadon Sancho for this, bringing it into the play a little bit. That's when Villa are their most dangerous, because then, the players that we have in the middle can make those penetrating runs, can make those penetrating passes and dribbles, and ultimately create more opportunities. When we lose that, that is when we look the most ineffective.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that we need to call out that strike from Kamara, because that was a heck of a finish. And the thing that I took away beyond what you already talked about, where they moved the ball entirely around the pitch, right, and really had the defense shifting, which created the space. The other thing that created the space for Kamara was that Wolves were sitting so deep in their own box. I mean, Kamara had at least 3 or 4 yards of space from the top of the box to fire and score. So, like, I realized that is, I think the XG ended up being just about 1 for Aston Villa in this game. I think it was like 0.99. I realized that we're still like scoring these long-range-ish goals, much more so than we're typically used to seeing. But I will again say that I think it is a function of how deep teams are sitting once the ball comes into the attacking third. And like we've said before, if they're going to give you that space, take it. Take the shot. Because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to make somebody move and the ball is going to go in front of the net. And in this case, Kamara put it right where it needed to go for a beauty of a goal.
Yeah, you've been on that for a while. And now I feel like that's gaining a little bit more traction with more people, this idea that this is a feature, not a bug. Villa taking these long range efforts to kind of keep teams honest. And, then I think the theory being, what was the analogy we used before? Like if you're a team that gets hot from three, all of a sudden the defense needs to come out, and then that's when you can kind of slip it inside to your big man. Same theory, right? Get hot from outside, make teams actually step out and play you, and then you can kind of slip someone in from behind for a little bit more of a tap in. I don't know, man. There's something to it, and I'm starting to think that every year it seems like there is something statistically with Unai Emery's Aston Villa that just doesn't make sense, feels unsustainable, right? In year one, we were playing the high line and catching all those teams off sides, and it was like, how long could they keep getting away with this? It was like that meme of Jesse from Breaking Bad.
Yep.
And after that, it was the high quality chances that we were giving up, but Emi Martinez was always saving. Last year, we almost made the Champions League with all those goals conceded on the first shot on target. Felt like we should have been way further down the table with that. And this year, it's the expected goals differential and Opta's expected points that is a product of us taking all of these long range shots that are theoretically lower XG, but seem to be working for us, and probably something that they're working on the training pitch. So I don't know if Unai is always ahead of the game with something that the statisticians can't quantify, or we just always find a different way to ride our luck. But it is interesting that there always seems to be something like that for us.
Yeah. And I mean, this one to me, like much more so than I would put this one more on par with the high line, I guess, because if you can execute well the offside trap that they were running so well in Unai's first year, if you can execute that as well as they did, it is sustainable, right? So that's what made that formation and that tactic a sustainable tactic for a full season, or almost a full season under Unai Emery, right? This one feels more sustainable than the conceding big chances and conceding first goals on first shot on target. Like those are two things that don't feel sustainable to continue to win. This one, like I said, if you're going to keep giving players 4 yards from 20 to 25 yards out to shoot, I will take my chances to at least do something, and make the keeper move, make the defense move, get the ball to bounce funny. All those things, that seems more sustainable to me than let's concede a lot of huge chances and just hope that our goalkeeper is really, really good and up to the task. So, and I do think that in time, you'll probably see defenses start to come out more, because now that Matty Cash has ripped a couple and Kamara, had the one on the weekend, and you just keep seeing it over and over and over again. Eventually, teams are going to be forced to step out.
I was going to say, and by the way, Yori doesn't have one yet, but we know that he's traditionally been a distance shooter. You got to know that coming as he gets up to speed as well. So we've got a lot of guys that can bang him in from there. Want to shout out John McGinn, another excellent performance from him. Continues to prove himself this year to be such an invaluable member of the squad. Whereas, previously you and I said our best 11 probably doesn't have him in it. I think he's really making us start to question that with his play this year. And so in a game where no one really played all that well, I'll give Pau Torres a shout out just for that sliding challenge that he had to defend against Strand Larsen in like the 51st or something like that.
Emi Martinez played well though too.
Emi Martinez played great. That's true. You know, John McGinn of the outfield players was probably the most consistent over the 90 minutes. I don't know, man. Like the switch leading up to the game, the vision right there towards the end, he had a great carry that ultimately won us a corner and took a lot of time off, showed a burst of pace that I didn't know that he still had. I don't know. Just needed to give him an applause because, you know, I feel like I've been called out by you in the past for being a bit too negative on him. So, you know, I want to make sure that I also give the praise as well.
Used his assets quite a few times on the turn as well, like he's known to do.
Hey yo.
I mean, what else do you say? The one question that I have for you, Alex, is: do you think that Wolves were fortunate to escape 2 potential red card situations?
I think they escaped 1 potential red card situation. So I think they were very lucky to end the game with 11 men. I thought the refereeing was atrocious. Andre, second yellow for handball. Like, that was so obvious, the way that he reached out, pulled it. Like, I understand that he thought he got fouled, but I'm sorry, you weren't fouled. It's an intentional handball. Like, that is a textbook
That's the one I don't get that one at all.
Didn't give him a red. I don't understand that at all. The other, I assume you're talking about the Arias kind of 2-foot half jump.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't really see like enough air time in the jump to say that was like a true 2-footed tackle as opposed to a little hop. He kind of grazes him a little bit. I'm okay with that one being a yellow, not a red.
I thought the handball was crazy. Like, I don't understand an intentional handball is a yellow card every day. So if you're already on a yellow, it's a second yellow and that's a red. Like, that's a stupid play to make. The fact that he's on a yellow shouldn't come into play at all.
No, not at all.
And I mean, I say that about everything, you know. There's a podcast we did, I think, last season where you and I disagreed that, you know, second yellow is different than the first yellow. And I could have seen the 2-footed stomp or 2-footed tackle, whatever we want to call it, 2-footed tackle being red, only because if he lands and makes full contact with Kamara, there's only one result there, and it's Kamara goes down in a heap and potentially breaks his leg. You know,
that's the thing. I don't think he comes from high enough or with enough force that would be the outcome, that's why I don't necessarily think.
So I think the handball one was. I don't understand that, and I didn't see any kind of explanation from.
I don't think they had one. That. I really don't think they had one.
But yeah, I thought Wolves were definitely fortunate to finish with 11. But look, end of the day, it wasn't a pretty win, but it was a win, and Villa continued to rise up the Premier League table. And just imagine what things would be like if we hadn't spotted everybody 4 games and where we just didn't score goals.
Seriously. Chris, let's talk about Ross Barkley out for, I think the estimate now is 2 months, unfortunately.
Minimum 2 months.
Minimum 2 months. Looked like a hamstring, probably a tear. Really sucks for a guy that was playing well, really working his way back. We talked about what a valuable kind of veteran leader he seemed to be.
Yep.
The contributions he was making and the trust that Unai had in him, that one hurts.
It's really unfortunate for 2 reasons. First, because he, as a man, was playing so well to the point that Emery said today he was close to putting Barkley in the starting 11. And from the team's perspective, being able to bring in, like, I believe in the Wolves game, like, our subs were in the defensive midfield were Onana and Barkley. Like, bringing those 2 effective players off the bench is a really nice thing to be able to do. And now, you know, neither Tielemans nor Kamara nor Onana is 100% right now. So we have nobody that is in that sort of double pivot type role that is 100% healthy. at this moment. They're going to have to probably use Bogard more, I would think.
McGinn maybe moves back a little bit,
back,
which has been effective. I
think I did see some people wonder about, like, does this mean Harvey Elliott gets more playing time? And I don't think that's going to be the case, just based on everything we've seen.
I think they clearly don't want him, and I don't know that you spend $35 million to solve this problem on a guy that doesn't have a long-term future there.
That's right.
Now, unfortunately, what that does mean is that we will probably see more and earlier introductions of someone who, to say he's been hot or cold, I think he's been largely cold. Jadon Sancho came on in, now granted, the 87th. He had a couple opportunities to break, to hold up play a little bit, lost the ball, in my opinion, way too cheaply both times. I have been wholly unimpressed by this guy since he has come over, and I don't know, man. I don't know how many more opportunities he's going to get before we just start going to Jimo Aloba or one of the other teamers in that space.
The positive about him is that he brings width into a team that desperately needs it. But no, he did not play well in his short stint against Wolves. But I think he's going to be the first player that Unai is going to look to in this situation as he shuffles the lineup around. You're going to run out of options eventually, So I think we will probably see more of him. We can only hope that he plays better and plays more to the level that we would expect of him. But maybe it's going to be one of those sort of 6-month breakthroughs that we've seen before with Unai Emery, where guys don't really gel at first and then they come on. But the only thing that makes me think that's not going to be the case is, generally speaking, for whatever reason, loanees for Unai Emery seem to break in almost immediately. And I don't know what that is psychologically. But the loan players have always done well initially and then usually fallen off, whereas Sancho has never really gotten going here.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't really know what to make of it. So, let's just say I think we've covered all the points on this one.
Yeah.
Larger implications on the season. Villa did temporarily go third until Arsenal absolutely pooped the bed against 10-man Chelsea and couldn't.
No. They would have been better off if Chelsea were 11 men. That's what they were. That's what
don't even. So Chelsea get the draw, bump Villa back down to fourth. We now have a 2-point gap over our next opponents tomorrow, Brighton and Hove Albion. So Chris, what are you? I'm going to be honest, everybody, between hosting and work this week and getting the house back in order, I've done no research on Brighton. So we're going entirely based off of vibes here, at least from my end. Chris, what are you expecting this match to be? What are you expecting from Brighton?
So I think this is going to be a good matchup between two teams that are similar in at least one big way. And that is, they are both overperforming their expected goals by a fairly significant margin. And the biggest overperformer is Danny Welbeck. He's nearly 4 goals more than his expected goals. He's got 7 goals on the season. Danny Welbeck. And I think that what Brighton have done well so far this season is largely similar to what Villa have done well, where it's been individual skill and long shots that have been the deciding factor for them in their victories. So I think what's going to be interesting from a tactical setup and matchup is which team is going to get more of the ball, because both teams want to have possession. In this case, usually Brighton is just over 50%, but they want to play with the ball just like Villa do. I think both teams are going to try to impose their style, impose their attacking style on the other. And that's going to be where I think the game is won or lost. And I think for Villa defensively, most of Brighton's attacks come down their attacking right, so Villa's defensive left. So I think you're going to see Luka Dean in the starting 11 because of that, because of his defensive ability over oh my God, how did I just blank on
Ian Matson?
Ian Matson. How did I just blank on Ian Matson? What happened to me? I didn't have notes up because I just figured I'd be able to name our players. Sorry about that, everybody. But so I do think that you'll see a shored up defensive left for Villa because the attacks come down that right wing with Danny Welbeck playing like it's 8 years ago or 7 years ago or whenever it was that he was his most effective.
Yeah, so first off, got to shout out Houston-born Fabian Hurtzler, manager. I think he's a very exciting young manager.
That's right. You always point out Houston-born for him.
Yeah. I think he was only there for like a year or two, but we still.
I think it would. Yeah.
U.S.-born. Now, what's interesting about Brighton is that much like Villa, they've been on a bit of a heater over their last few matches. So 2 of their 3 losses happened in their first 4 fixtures to Everton and Bournemouth. And since then, they've had really good run. Victory over City, draw with Spurs, not so great. 3-1 victory over Chelsea, 2-1 over Newcastle. They drew Wolves, not a great result. Lost to United, not a great result. But they've kind of got the job done against the teams that they're supposed to. So with them being at home, like you said, they definitely try to impose their style of play. We've seen it before. It's definitely a higher intensity style, a little bit more of a press, which kind of plays to Villa's strength a little bit, particularly with Pau Torres and now Yuri back in the lineup and the ability to kind of play through the lines and release some of our forwards in behind. So I expect us to go with a little more pace in the starting 11 this time. And I do think that it's going to be a matter of can Villa get in behind and maybe get that first goal, or do Brighton get on top and impose their will? They're obviously much more effective offensively. I think everybody in the league pretty much is more effective offensively than Villa right now, but they
take the first 4 games out though and see what happens.
They also give up a lot more opportunities going the other way. With 16 goals conceded at this point. So, yeah. Go ahead.
I do want to say a couple good news, even though injury front for Brighton is that Matoma is doubtful and Milner both listed as doubtful for this game. So especially Matoma, because he's a player that I feel like always plays well. I think I've said this before about him when we did a preview pod with Brighton. He always seems to play. I mean, he's a good player, so don't get me wrong. He plays well against a lot of people, but he always seems to play very well and be very effective against Aston Villa.
Yeah, I mean, Matty Cash he's a very attacking fullback. He's never going to do well with those pacey guys that get in behind. Tends to lunge into challenges, so a tricky winger like that is always going to give him more difficulty than someone who kind of fronts up a little bit more, maybe just tries to get in behind something that he can read a little bit better. So, yeah. Should I go line up first, I suppose?
If you are ready, yes, you go ahead.
All right. Like I said, this is all top of the dome. So, Emi Martinez in goal. I think it'll be the same back 4 as the last one. So, Cash, Konsa, Pau, and Luka Dean. I think you will continue to see Yuri and Kamara in the midfield. And then in front of them, I think Buendia, couple not so great performances back to back, been hooked very early in both. I think he's done. I think we have seen what you and I have said repeatedly. Ian Matson is not a straight all out and out number 9. So I think we will see a front 3 of John McGinn, Morgan Rogers, and Danielle Mallon with Ollie Watkins leading the line.
I have the same lineup, so there's no reason to do anything different. I originally had Buendia put in mind, but then changed it like you did to I had Buendia for McGinn actually, and then I realized, well, there's no way they're taking McGinn off, so Buendia is off. That's where I ended up as well.
Yeah, I think we haven't necessarily had an away game like this in a while, but allowing Danielle Mallon to play off of Ollie Watkins and make some of those runs in behind, if we maybe go with more of that 3-4-1-2 that we kind of saw against or was 3-2-3-2 that we saw against, what was it, Burnley, I think. Gives us a little more balance across the field, allows us to use that width, and lets Mullen be dangerous where he is most effective. I think that might be a tactic that we employ to try and counteract and get in behind some of what Brighton tries to do.
The danger of this lineup is that all those players are going to want to go narrow. All those players want to work toward the middle. So that's what you'll want to watch out for, I think, if this is the starting lineup. And I mean, generally speaking, we've been saying it now for over a year that's what Villa have to fight against when they're out there, when they're playing. They've got to keep their shape wide in attack. What do you think for a prediction for this one?
So here's the thing.
Starting off prediction with it, here's the thing.
Festive fixtures, we know how busy this time of the year gets. And most importantly, we pointed this out at the start of the season, we have Arsenal twice in the next 30 days.
Crazy.
So we play Arsenal on Saturday, and then we play them again on December 30th. I really worry that this is a potential banana skin. I know that Brighton is in 5th, but away, Villa have obviously been much stronger at home than away. We have Arsenal at home on Saturday. I wonder if the players are going to be looking ahead to that a little too much, and this is where they potentially slip up. I'm not going to go so far as to say that we lose, but I think there seem to always be goals in Brighton Villa, so I'm going to say 2-2.
I mean, I like the way you're thinking there, and it makes a lot of sense. I think maybe it's on the back of the 8 straight now that Villa has won.
Well, isn't 7 of 8 because of Liverpool or whatever?
That's right. It'd be 7 of 8, right? But yeah, it's still they've been on a hell of a run. I probably have too much confidence, but I will say in my defense of the prediction I'm about to make, Emi Martinez looks to be back to the Emi Martinez of old quite a bit. Made some fantastic saves. Has had a couple of very good games recently. I think that it's going to be 2-1 Aston Villa. So Villa continue to win, but I could absolutely see a 2-2 or even a 2-1 loss. But I'm gonna stay positive and say 2-1 victory, and Aston Villa continue to put pressure on the top of the table.
I mean, listen to some of these scores of our past 5 against Brighton. Now, granted, we've gotten the better of them, actually, in a lot of them. Going all the way back to May 28th, 2023. Villa 2, Brighton 1. Villa 6, Brighton 1.
I remember that
Brighton
one.
1, Villa 0. We had a 2-2 draw and then beat them 3-0 last year in April. So I think there's going to be goals in this one. I think whatever the score is, it's not going to be just a 1-0 slog like we had over Wolves on the weekend.
Yeah, I think so. And I think part of the reason is like we talked about earlier, both teams are going to try and impose their will. And Brighton at home especially are going to try to attack early, I think. So like you said, first goal I think will be important. And first shot on target would be important for Emi Martinez.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Chris, anything else that we have to talk about?
I just want to shout out Big Walt. We had a great Thanksgiving. It was good to see him. And I know he swears he's not our most loyal listener, but it's hard to find someone more loyal than Big Walt.
Why does he not want to be our most loyal listener?
Well, I think he wants to give credit to our other fans in the U.S. and across the pond.
I'm fine if Big Walt is our most loyal listener. Shouts out to you, Big Walt. All right. Well, with that, Chris, it's great to talk to you as always. And like we always say, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.